Jesus knew this moment would come into my life long before I ever realized it, because sometimes the biggest changes begin with the deepest pain. And I never expected that the person I trusted the most would become the reason I had to rebuild myself completely. She came into my life like a blessing, or at least that's what I believed at the time. Everything about her felt right, the way she spoke, the way she understood me, the way she made me feel like I was finally seen and valued, and slowly, without even realizing it, I gave her my heart, my trust, and my future. I believed she was my soulmate, the one God had chosen for me, and I built my life around that belief. But sometimes, what feels like a blessing at the beginning turns into a lesson in the end. And I learned that in the hardest way possible, because one day, without warning, everything changed. Her love faded. Her presence became distant, and the connection we once shared started to disappear. I tried to hold on. I tried to fix things. I tried to believe that love was enough to keep us together. But love cannot stay where it is not valued. And eventually, the truth came out. She had chosen someone else. In that moment, it felt like my entire world collapsed, not slowly but all at once. The dreams I built shattered, the trust I gave was broken, and the future I imagined disappeared in front of my eyes. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to move forward. I only knew that I was in pain. A kind of pain that words cannot fully describe. Nights became longer, thoughts became heavier, and my heart felt empty in a way I had never experienced before. I questioned everything. I questioned my worth, my decisions, and even my faith, asking why something like this had to happen to me. But there were no answers, only silence, and sometimes that silence feels louder than anything else. But it was in that silence that something unexpected happened. I found myself turning toward Jesus, not because I had strong faith, but because I had nowhere else to go. I didn't pray perfectly, I didn't have the right words, I just spoke honestly. I told him about my pain, my confusion, and my broken heart, and slowly, something started to change. Not around me, but within me. The pain didn't disappear instantly, but it became easier to carry. It felt like I was no longer alone in my struggle, like someone was walking with me through the darkness, guiding me step by step. And as days passed, I began to see things differently. I started to understand that not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Sometimes it is a removal, a protection, a redirection towards something better, even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment. And that realization changed my mindset. I stopped asking why she left, and I started asking what I needed to learn. I started focusing on myself, rebuilding my confidence, strengthening my faith, and finding peace within. I spent more time in prayer, not just asking for things, but listening, reflecting, and growing. And the more I did that, the stronger I became. The pain that once controlled me slowly lost its power, and I began to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Real peace, the kind that doesn't depend on people or situations, but comes from within. And one day, I realized something that changed everything. I realized that I had been chasing love in the wrong place. I had been searching for completeness in another person, when the truth was, I needed to find it within myself and through my faith. And once I understood that, everything became clearer. I was no longer desperate for love. I was no longer afraid of being alone. I was no longer defined by my past. Instead, I felt stronger, wiser, and more prepared for whatever comes next. And as I continued moving forward, I began to notice new opportunities, new connections, and new moments that brought joy into my life. Not because I was trying to replace what I lost, but because I was finally open to what God had planned for me. And that is when I understood the most important lesson of all. Sometimes God removes someone from your life not to hurt you, but to heal you, to protect you from something you cannot see, and to prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. And if you are listening to this right now, feeling the same pain, the same confusion, the same heartbreak, I want you to remember this one truth. What you lost is not your future. It is only a part of your journey. Your story is still being written, and the best part has not even begun yet. Trust Jesus, even when it's hard. Trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense, because one day, everything will fall into place, and you will understand why everything had to happen the way it did. And when that day comes, you will not feel broken. You will feel grateful, because you will realize that your pain was not the end. It was the beginning of your transformation. And even after that transformation began, there were still days when memories tried to return. Not to break me like before, but to test how far I had come. Because healing is not about forgetting. It is about becoming stronger than what once hurt you. And there were moments when I would think about her again. The way she smiled, the way she spoke, the promises she made, and for a second, my heart would feel that old pain trying to come back. But this time, something was different. I was no longer the same person who depended on those memories. I had grown, I had changed, and I had learned to see things from a higher perspective. And in that perspective, I realized something powerful. I realized that I was not rejected. I was redirected, and that truth gave me a kind of peace that I had never known before, because it made me understand that every closed door in my life was actually leading me toward the right one, even if I couldn't see it at the time. And as I continued moving forward, I started to notice how my mindset had completely shifted. I was no longer asking why things happened to me. I was asking what they were teaching me. And that simple change in thinking made a huge difference in the way I experienced life. I became more patient, more calm, and more focused on growth rather than loss. And slowly, I began to rebuild my life in ways I never thought possible. I started setting goals for myself, focusing on my future and creating a life that was not dependent on anyone else. And that independence gave me confidence, the kind of confidence that comes from knowing that you are enough on your own. And during this time, my relationship with Jesus became even stronger. I no longer prayed only when I was in pain. I prayed every day, not out of need, but out of connection. I started to feel His presence in my life in ways I had never experienced before, in the small moments, in the quiet thoughts, and in the peace that stayed with me even during uncertain times. And that connection became my foundation, something that could not be shaken by people or situations. And one day, something unexpected happened. I met someone new, not in a dramatic or sudden way, but in a simple, natural moment. A conversation that felt easy, comfortable, and real. And what surprised me the most was not the connection itself, but the way I reacted to it. I was calm. I was not rushing. I was not building dreams too quickly like before. I was simply present, allowing things to unfold naturally. And that was when I realized how much I had changed. I was no longer searching for someone to complete me. I was already complete. And that made all the difference, because when you are complete within yourself, you don't attach out of fear. You connect out of choice, and that is what creates something real and lasting. And as time went on, I started to understand the difference between what I had before and what I was experiencing now. The past was filled with emotions, intensity, and attachment, but it also had confusion and instability, while this new connection felt peaceful, steady, and clear. There was no need to question, no need to chase, and no fear of losing it, because it felt right in a way that didn't require explanation. And in that moment, I understood something that changed everything. Real love does not come with anxiety. It comes with peace. It does not make you feel unsure. It makes you feel secure, and it does not leave you wondering where you stand. It shows you clearly through actions and consistency. And that realization made me grateful for everything I had gone through, even the pain. Because without it, I would not have learned these lessons. I would not have grown into the person I am today. and I would not have been ready to recognize what is real. And now, when I look back at my past, I don't feel anger or regret. I feel understanding. I see it as a chapter that had to happen to bring me to where I am now. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change it, because it shaped me, it taught me, and it prepared me for something better. And if you are listening to this right now, still holding on to someone who walked away, still feeling the weight of a broken heart, I want you to understand this one truth: your story is not over. What you are going through right now is not the end. It is a process, a transformation that is leading you toward a better version of yourself and a better future than you can imagine. And even if it feels slow, even if it feels difficult, trust that something is happening behind the scenes. Trust that God is working in your life even when you cannot see it, because one day everything will make sense. The pain, the loss, the waiting, all of it will come together in a way that shows you that nothing was wasted. Every experience had a purpose. Every moment had a meaning, and every step was leading you exactly where you needed to be. And when that realization comes, you will no longer feel broken.